The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. Welcome back. We've been gone. We've been off for quite a while. You can hear healthy and on a beach somewhere, but instead we chose to be sick a large portion of it. But I'm glad to be back and thrilled to be here with you. I want to remind you right here at the start of the show that this entire program, we're going to be with you live for the next 2 hours. This entire program is meant to be interactive. So we hope that you will participate, save my voice a little, use your voice, participate with us. There are many different ways for you to get involved and to have your voice heard, whether you want to give us a comment, a suggestion, a compliment, if you want to tell us what we're not doing right, something we could be doing differently. We love to hear all of that. So Emily's going to cycle through some of the different ways that you can get in touch with us here at the show. I'm going to remind you that one way you can watch us live is by going to www.autism-live.com. When you go there, you will see that there is a computer screen. If you click there, you can watch the most recent episode or the live episode. And if you look over to the side, there's a white box, and that is your interaction box. You can put your cursor in that white box, type, hit enter, and it shows up right here on my screen in real time. In that way, I can be asking our guests questions directly from you. You and I can have a conversation, and hopefully you can get some of the support that you need. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to me, because I'm not an autism expert. I'm a parent. I sit in this chair from that perspective, trying to look at autism from a 360-degree perspective with you. But I know that it's important wherever you are. If autism is a part of your day, I'm sure you've run into the emotion where you felt like you were alone at some point. And that's the thing that more than anything else, I want you to know you're not alone, and that there is help, there is support. It isn't the same and it isn't equal in all places, but there's something that can help you, that can help your family, that can help you help yourself to make progress, because progress is available. And if people are telling you, oh, well, you know, it's autism, and so just accept it and get over it because this is how it's going to be, I'm here to tell you that's not the game plan. As our lovely friend Lisa Ackerman from TACA likes to say, when they say autism, it's not game over, it's game on. There are things that you can do. There's support that's out there. You're going to have to do some legwork, and hopefully we can do some of that legwork with you and for you. That's really why we're here, is to be a support and a resource conduit. That's the word I want. I want the word conduit today. Anyway, so happy and so thrilled to be here with you this morning. I hope that you will participate with us. And again, I am not an expert, but we bring experts in here to talk to you. But I'm on the emotional side. I'm on this journey with you. And my son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5, and he's now almost 10.5. And what I've learned on this journey is amazing. I know that I have more to learn, so I'm here to be your student as well, and hopefully connect you with some great teachers. So without further ado, I want to remind you that in the morning we start off with something we call the jargon of the day. I think of this as our morning push-ups, that we're going to take on one word, one phrase, one acronym, and hopefully make some sense of it. You know, if you've stepped into this spectrum, there's a lot of jargon, and it can weigh you down. It can really tear your ticket, get you stuck in the mud, all those wonderful euphemisms, right? And especially the ones that we're taking on on today because we're taking on things that have to do with insurance. So you ready? Our term today is self-funded employer plans. You've probably heard us talk about this on the show, and you've heard us talk about so many states now have passed insurance laws, and we go, yay, and we celebrate, and everybody goes, woohoo. But there are still people who fall between the cracks, because this is when this term comes up, self-funded insurance plans. What is it? Let's take a look at our actual definition. Self-funded insurance plans are plans in which the employer pays all of the claims with their own funds. Self-funded plans are only subject to federal ERISA laws. If a state mandates coverage for ABA therapy, the self-funded plan won't have to comply with that law. Oh, okay. What does all of that mean? When we boil it down, the thing that you really need to know at this point with self-funded plans is, even if your state has passed laws requiring coverage for ABA therapy, self-funded plans don't have to cover it. So you're living in a state, let's say you live in the state of California, and we all celebrated when insurance coverage passed. And by the way, during the break, the governor did sign into law that the mandate for insurance covering autism will be extended. So we're not going to have to worry about it anytime soon, which is great news, right? And you go, that's fabulous. So kids are going to get more help and more support. But it does still leave people out. If you go to your employer and you say, hey, I hear that in California, there's this new law that has been updated, and I'm supposed to have coverage for myself, or I'm supposed to have coverage for my child. What's the deal with this? And the employer says, we don't cover autism insurance. We don't cover autism therapies. We don't cover ABA. Well, then you got to ask some more questions, right? And the first question that you want to ask is this insurance that I have through my employer, or is it a self-funded insurance plan? And the difference is that if it's insurance, it will be covered by that state mandate. If it's self-funded, it's not. It's only covered by those ERISA laws, which are federal laws. And until there is a federal mandate, those people are just going to get left out. It isn't great, and it's one of the reasons why we need to be talking to our federal representatives and saying to them, this is exactly why we need a federal mandate, so that all insurance plans will have to cover ABA. But for right now, the main thing that you need to be concerned about, if you're trying to get help for yourself or for your child and you want to get access to ABA therapy and you're figuring out, am I covered or am I not covered? You've got sort of two different directions you can go. You can contact an ABA provider and that you want to be vendoring with, that you eventually want to be doing work with, and say to them, here's my insurance card. Can you call and figure out, because I've tried talking to them and I can't get a straight answer, right? And they should be able to do that. They should be willing to do that for you. Or you can go to your HR director, and the first question you want to ask is, and they should know this question, they should very easily be able to tell you, are we a self-funded plan or are we insurance? And if they say we're insurance, then you know that you have a mandate in your state, then you know you are going to be covered. You might get somebody on the other end of the phone who says, oh no, I don't know anything about ABA, and just remember that it takes a while for that information to trickle down. But if you have a mandate in your state and it's insurance and it's not self-funded, you're covered. If they say that's a self-funded plan, then you're going to have to ask a lot more questions. Some self-funded plans have made the wonderful choice to comply with the state mandate, even though they didn't have to. Some employers have decided to do that. Many others have chosen not to. So it makes a huge difference in whether you're going to get coverage. It's the question you got to ask. One, it's insurance, the state mandate covers it, but if they say self-funded, they're outside those laws. They don't have to until we get that federal mandate. If you're talking to any of your legislators that are federal legislators, you really want to be saying federal mandate, federal mandate, federal mandate, and let them know I'm outside, I'm not getting the coverage. Through my husband's employer, we have self-funded insurance. So even if the California law had been in place when my son was 3, we would not have had coverage. So I feel for you, all of you who are out there who are outside this law. We push for that federal mandate. So that's our jargon for today. And we always start out with a question for you that we hope you guys will answer on Facebook. I'm going to be looking a little bit later on today because it's going to inform some of the things that we're going to be doing later on in the week. But my question for you today is, what question would you like to ask an insurance expert? What would you, if you had 5 minutes to sit down with an insurance expert and say, okay, what does this mean? I don't get this. What do I do about this? Because I have access to some insurance experts and I can ask them these questions. So what would you like to know? And we'll see if we can't get it answered before the week is out. All right, we always have a topic of the week, and I'm just going to guess that you can guess what our topic this week is, right? I've pretty much given it away. We're going to talk about insurance this week. I know that a lot of you have gone on the exchanges now and tried to make heads or tails, and it's different in different states. To see, what it is exactly that you should be looking for. I know I went on the California exchange and I couldn't get on because there were so many people on the exchange. But we're poised. On January 1st, the Affordable Health Care Act will be enacted if all things stay the same. And I know there's a lot up in the air always, right? But we move forward with what we have. And it's important that you figure out the insurance plan that is right for you. So on Thursday, we're going to have Julie Kornack in here with us. She is a policy analyst and she's an expert. And she asked a couple of weeks ago if she could come back to talk about the Affordable Health Care Act, Obamacare, as a lot of people have dubbed it, and getting on those exchanges and what to look for to know whether you're going to be covered by ABA. We understand that there are other concerns that you have for your health care plan besides ABA, but I know as a parent that having access to ABA, it's an important thing that you're going to want to discuss when you make your decisions, because it can make the difference in hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of care for your child or for yourself. So on Thursday, Julie Kornack is going to be here to talk about all of this with us, because I know I've got some questions. But if you have the opportunity before Thursday to get on your state's exchange and kind of look around, that way you'll be poised to ask really informed questions. I know I'm going to try to get back on the California one to take a look, but that's insurance, what we're talking about. It's really, really important. It is, excuse me, now I have the hiccups. It is a game changer. Insurance. If you've got it, you've got access to some really good care. If you don't, you're going to be scrambling to put together a program. It's not impossible, but it's a lot easier when you've got the funding through insurance. Okay, so some of the different things that we've got going on today, since we just talked about insurance, we're going to come back and have a stress tip for you. A little bit later on, we've got our healthy eating tip for the week. And then in the second hour, we're scheduled to have Matt Asner from Autism Speaks. I know we've got a lot of news to catch up on with an update on the 14-year-old who has been missing, who eloped from his school a little more than a week ago. They're searching the New York subways, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in the second hour. So we're going to take a break. We're going to come back with our stress tip. You won't want to miss it. Stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, I'm Lisa Ackerman. Welcome back to another What's Left in Cooking Friendly for Kids with Allergies. And what we're going to make today is a pizza crust. We got lots of emails, and I really appreciate all the feedback. A lot of folks have been asking about what pizza crust is yeast-free, no eggs, and no gluten and all the other fun stuff. So we're going to take that challenge head on. And if anyone who likes New York type style thin crust pizza, oh, that's what we're going for today. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of almond flour. Now for folks who have allergies with nuts, there's a great bread pizza crust mix from Anna's that I really like. It's another great alternative for people who are avoiding a lot of carbs and sugars. So I like this one as well. So Jamie's going to get the flaxseed meal going, and now let's talk about the starches. What's really important about this recipe to get that crisp New York style pizza crust is arrowroot. I love arrowroot starch. It has a lot to offer for binding and pulling this recipe together. And I also have my coconut oil. I'm a big fan of coconut oil. You've heard me talk about that many times. Next, we're going to add in our spices. I like a little spices. If you've got a kid that doesn't like spices, it's okay, but I've gone really light in the oregano and basil. So we're going to go ahead and add that in with the baking soda. And for folks who like a little sweetness, I do like maple syrup a lot. But you can just add just a wee bit for flavor. I use typically maybe half a teaspoon. So what's great about what Jamie's helping me with now, it's great for kids that have digestive issues. It gives a great deal of fiber and also allows a binding, like what you would look for in a gluten flour. This is a great gluten-free option. And this is a modified recipe from the website Real Sustenance. I love those guys. They do a great job, but I always like to tweak things, but appreciate them. Shout out. So we're ready to roll out our pizza crust. I'm so excited, Jamie. This tastes really good. We're going to get the pizza crust going and the pizza toppings ready as well. So all I'm doing with the pizza crust is laying down some of my great parchment, unbleached parchment paper. And scare your husband with the rolling pin. That's always good times. So we're just going to real simply roll this thing out. You really want it to be as thin as possible. And it's really all a matter of preference as to how thin you want it to be. This is not a really good thick crust, so that looks good. So I'm just going to go and outline my pizza crust so it's going to look a little prettier when I take it out of the oven. So don't be afraid of the rolling pin. Your husband can be afraid of the rolling pin, but you don't need to be afraid. This is why you got to love parchment paper. And here we go. We're going to pre-cook this at 350 for about 22 minutes. Look at this pizza crust. It's not totally cooked yet, so that's okay because we're going to add our toppings to this. Most of us have a can of organic tomato sauce in our pantry. So all I'm doing is adding in just a smidge, okay, a quarter teaspoon of oregano. A smidge doesn't work in measurement. A quarter teaspoon of basil. And a wee bit of salt. Okay, a quarter teaspoon of salt. And for kids who are really sensitive to tomatoes, this is great because you can make it as fine as you want it to be. And that's great. That smells good. So if you want to cheat, you can use this puree. I like to take the roasted tomatoes, which is great, and push this around on my pizza crust. I know I use my fingers.
That's the only way to make pizza.
Exactly.
It's made with love. Kids love helping to make pizza too because they feel really involved in it. And they get to put however much they want of things. So
yeah.
Good family affair.
And we love the day of cheese. It goes on pretty much almost everything in my house. I'm going to go ahead and add the day of cheese here. Too much cheese makes it a little soggy, so you may want to cook it a little longer and have it get a little bubblier. We're also using some organic sausage. This is the sweet Italian sausage, and the more the better. And then we're going to add our sliced black olives. I love olives, but again, if you've got a kid that likes pepperoni, there's a great nitrate-free pepperoni from Boar's Hill. There's our pizza ready to go in the oven. I'm ready. Let's do this. Our pizza's in the oven at 400 degrees. You can go anywhere from about 25 to 30 minutes, but again, you really want it bubbly and cooked. If you put it at a higher temperature, the fake cheese doesn't like that and it can scald. Your kid's gonna love you for such a great pizza. We'll see you next time on What's Left. If you have any questions, please email us at autismlive@gmail.com, or you can hit facebook.com/autismlive, or go to the Taco website at Tacanow, TACANOW. There's thousands of recipes waiting for you to enjoy. We'll see you next time at Autism Live. What's Left?
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're going to talk a little bit about stress right now because this week we're going to be talking a lot about insurance and a lot about funding. And I don't know about you, but whenever we bring up money, I go, stress, right? I'm sure I'm not the only one. I remember when we were in the thick of things with autism, the Ian Project had started and they did extensive research and had the largest pool of parents answering questions and then gave us the results from it. And you can still participate in the Ian Project and answer some of the different research, the questions that they have from time to time. And I really encourage you to do that. It helps all of us when you do that. But I remember when we got the results back and they said, you know, here are the results that we found out, that autism parents are extremely stressed. And as Nancy and I always like to say, well, there's the duh heard around the world. But what was very interesting to me was the correlation between the stress. It wasn't as much about our children having autism. That's certainly a part of the stress, right? But the greater portion of the stress was about getting services and taking care of the financial aspect of it. That was the more stress-inducing factor. And that even after our children started to improve and get better, our stress levels stayed the same because we were still fighting about the finances and getting services. So we know that goes hand in hand, stress, autism, and funding, you know, they're all walking together. So we've got to have some stress stuff in place. And one of the things I mentioned earlier that as we took this last week off and my son was on fall break, we got these horrible, icky colds. And there was a day when I said to my husband, I said, you know, I'm in that really nice, muzzy place when I just don't care. I wasn't horribly sick to the point that I was uncomfortable, but I was in that place of where you just can't cope with anything else, so you just don't care. And I said, wow, I think for the first time in a long time, I really have no stress because there's nothing I can do about it right now. And it reminded me how important it is to find a baseline. A lot of the times we have such a constant amount of stress that even when we take a minute and we go, okay, so I de-stressed for a second, we don't always get back down to that really baseline, I am at peace right now, and how essential that it is to do that. It's so hard when you've got 38 million things to do and 38 million things to worry about to find that baseline. But I've been reminded in the last week that if we don't, we get sick faster and stay sick longer. So I want to remind all of us that not only do we want to be taking those 3-minute vacations that we talk about all the time, where you just sit for a moment, even if you don't have 3 minutes, if you take that big inhale, right, and the big long exhale 3 times can change the way the day is going, right? It's essential to do that. But let's not think that that's the only thing that we have to do for stress. We've got to hook up some respite time, and I know it's stressful to think about that, right? But we have to, even if it's just saying to the other person, and hopefully you have another person who's in this deal with you, saying, I'm going to go take an hour and then we'll trade and you can take an hour. But we've got to find time to get to that baseline down, really no stress whatsoever. It is a joy and a treat when we can get there. Do the 3-minute vacation, but at least once a week. I mean, it would be lovely if we could all do it once a day, but I know the realities of that. It's not always possible. But at least once a week, get to the place where you can just get to baseline. One of the things that my husband and I did right after we started ABA therapy, we would do a stretching thing together where we would stretch and have like a positive mantra. We called it our money mantra because money was so scarce. So we'd be stretching at the same time that we'd be saying something positive, and then we would sit down and just take 3 minutes where we'd sit Indian style on the floor, hold hands, and we would just have a moment together, holding hands and visualizing. And it's funny that my husband and I just talked about this 2 nights ago and said, why don't we do this anymore? And that's come up several times. But I'm going to commit to you guys that we're going to find the time to do that. And I hope that you find something that works for you, either by yourself or with your significant other, but get to that baseline. We got through the toughest days of autism because we managed to do that. And you don't have to be in the toughest days to do it, as my husband and I reminded ourselves this week. So stress, take that breath, find the time. Even if, as I've said before, get in your car, put your child in the 5-point harness in the car and take a minute there. And if they're screaming, if they scream for a minute, it's not going to be the end of the world. You can take a minute and do the 3 breaths. You've got to, for your sake, for your health's sake, for your child's sake, for everyone's sake. You'll feel better. But do the long term as well. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we've got our healthy eating tips, so stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. For this month, I figured we're going to do a super special portrait that is in the theme of October, which means spooky eyes that follow you as you walk around. In this activity, you and your child are going to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are a camera, a ping pong ball, X-Acto blade, tape, and a marker. And if your kids are up to it, props and costumes. Now let's take some photos. It's a great time to work on emotions and socio-dramatic play. Let's get our props.
See all the colors in the sky tonight. It's time to let the sunshine hide.
Once you've finished your photo shoot with your child, select one of the photos and print it out on a large piece of paper. Now that you've selected your photo, you're going to take an X-Acto blade and just cut out the eyes from it. This part of the activity is definitely only for the adults. Now that you've finished cutting out the eyes, what we're going to do next is take a ping pong ball and cut it in half. You'll see why in just a moment. So with the ping pong balls, we're going to create the illusion of the following eyes. So what you're going to do is take a marker and you're going to make a dot in the very, very center. You're going to want to make it like the same size of what the iris was in the photo. Now that the ping pong balls are done, I'm just going to tape them to the back of the photograph. So does it look like she's following you? Well, I hope you enjoyed this activity for Smarty. Until next time, craft on, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. Every couple of months we come upon that time of year when it's a transition time. And we've talked about this during our healthy eating segment. You might be feeling a little bit dissatisfied with your food, or you notice that your child is acting a little finicky. You go to the grocery store and you stand there and you go, I don't know what to get, right? These are all symptoms of transition. They happen right around the same time as the seasons. And it's not a coincidence. They all go hand in hand because this food supply changes and your appetite changes, and it's supposed to be that way. So what do? We roll with the changes. We transition to something else. The other day, I was feeling really like, I don't know what to cook for dinner. I'm just so over it. I'm making the same thing over and over again. I'm just so bored. And my son, we were in the grocery store, and I just kept walking up the aisle, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted and what I didn't want. And my son said, Mom, I really want mashed potatoes. I'm in the mood for mashed potatoes. Now, I don't know about you, but it's like pulling teeth to get my child to say something he wants somewhere down the road. In the moment he'll say, oh, I'd really like it if you cooked this, and it's something that takes 4 hours to prep, right? So this was so exciting to me on many different levels. First of all, that my son, I'm always asking him, what do you want to eat this week? While we're at the store, I don't know, right? So I was so excited that he actually named something, and it reminded me, because I need a reminder, which is why I'm hoping to remind all of us that it's time to change the staples in the house. It's time to go through and start stocking up on things that our kids want to eat. Heavier things. It's soup weather. It's stew weather. It's time to get those root vegetables into the house, and we still want to be eating the rainbow, right? And we still want to include green leafy vegetables, but it's actually a really good time in the fall for green leafy vegetables, for things like the different lettuces, or, it's the colder weather kinds of things. Brussels sprouts are in season right now, and I know everybody's going, Brussels sprouts? How do you get a child to eat Brussels sprouts? Oh my goodness, some candied Brussels sprouts, even if it's just that you take lemon juice and, you can parboil the Brussels sprouts, cut them in half, squeeze some lemon juice, throw a little bit of garlic and a little bit of olive oil in the pan, not a non-stick pan. You want to do it in a heavy pan that isn't non-stick. And you throw the lemon juice in, and it candies them, and they're fabulous. Kids love them. And you can even throw, if your child can do nuts, you can throw some nuts in at the end, and you're talking a really beautiful dish that you can serve at Thanksgiving with other people at the table, but that a child will like. I know, it's a foreign concept, the Brussels sprout. And remember, when you're trying a new food with your child, you have to present it a minimum of 20 times before you can say that they won't eat it, right? But if you candy them, and if your child can stand a little bit sugar, I know we don't do the sugar, but other people, it's a great time to do candied carrots. It's a great time. There's a great recipe on Pinterest. They call it crack broccoli, and they put a little bit of sugar on the broccoli. If your child can withstand a little bit of sugar, it's a very minimal amount of sugar, and it sweetens up the vegetable enough. It's worth it to get those greens in. You still want to be doing some raw things with your child, but again, the root vegetables, things like carrots, a great thing to be doing this time of year. But take a look at your diet and ask yourself, have we made the transition? Have I transitioned my child's food? Also, the winter squashes, oh my goodness, a good butternut squash. You can peel it with a carrot peeler, and then you can even peel it into a salad, or you can roast it. Oh my goodness, a roasted beet and butternut squash in your oven. Oh, good stuff. Kids will like it too. It's got a high sugar content, a natural sugar content that they'll love it. So try these things, transition, be making pumpkin cookies, pumpkin whatever, get the kids involved, time to transition, make it healthy. All right, that's our healthy eating tip for the week. We'll be back with more after these messages.
Hi everyone! In the cold winter months, it can be really nice to sit down and enjoy a nice, warm apple crisp. And thanks to Breads from Anna, we can make one for you gluten and yeast free. So let's go over what we're going to need. To make the filling, you're going to need 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, ½ teaspoon of nutmeg, 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice, 7 cups of Granny Smith apples, and 3 tablespoons of Breads from Anna pie crust. For your topping, you're going to need 1 cup of rolled oats, a 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of Breads from Anna pie crust mix, 3/4 of a cup of butter melted, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1 tablespoon vanilla, and 2 tablespoons of water. Don't forget to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So now let's cut some apples. We're going to peel and slice 6 apples. So as you're cutting your apples, make sure you add your lemon juice to make sure that they don't brown and oxidize. So once all my apples are cut and sliced, I'm going to go ahead and add the nutmeg, cinnamon, and the pie crust mix. We're just going to stir these together. So we've got a 13 by 9, and we're just going to spray this with a little bit of grapeseed oil. And then we're going to pour our apples into the dish. And to make our topping, we're just going to combine the rest of the ingredients in a small bowl. All right, that looks pretty good. We're just going to pour this evenly over the top of the apples, and we should be good to go. All right, this is ready to bake, 30 to 35 minutes at 350 degrees. than 30 minutes, so our crisp should be all done. All right, it's pretty hot, so you would probably want to let it sit for a little while, but we're gonna go ahead and serve up a slice here. To learn how you can win free mix from Breads from Anna, visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/autism-live. See you soon.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're talking right now about your answers to yesterday's question of the day. We asked you yesterday, does your insurance cover ABA? And it was amazing to me, some of the things that you guys wrote. There were a lot of no's and nopes, right? But we would think that when people do have coverage that it would just be happy, 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 but people wrote in and talked about some of the difficulties that they're having. Somebody wrote in and said in Massachusetts it's supposed to, but ours does not. I'm assuming that you have that self-funded employer plan, like so many people do. Another person who says, yes, I have HealthNet HMO in California, and my son gets 35 hours a week with a $20 copay a day that is covered by the regional center till he turns 3. We've been very lucky so far. My question is, what happens when the child turns 3? Because $20 a day is expensive. Of course, for many of you watching, if it was $20 a day, you'd be thrilled, right? But it still creates other problems. Another person says, depends where I do it, and we have a big deductible. So often the case. Someone says, yes, I live in Indiana. It covers 100% after the deductible. I had to appeal, and it was a major struggle, but thank God, because my son attends a school receiving Thank God, because my son attends a school receiving ABA 36 hours a week. We always talk about trying to get in that 25 to 40 hours a week window, right? We know we're going to get the best results there. Studies have shown that. Another person says, I work for the Social Security Administration and have their federal Blue Cross Shield plan. They do not cover ABA. Shame on them. I live in Indiana and purchased my daughter a high deductible supplement plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield. It's $11,000 yearly deductible and $500 monthly, but it covers 100% of ABA after the deductible is met. My 3-year-old goes 35 hours a week at $75 an hour, so it does save major money. And I think, you know, a lot of people get frightened when they hear these numbers because you think, how on earth can anybody do that? You know, there are other funding sources. So if you're feeling like, well, I get insurance, but the deductible is so high or the copay is so high, I can't do it, please don't stop there. There are places that you can get grants, and there are other fundraisers that you can do, but when you stop and think about it, even if she's paying $500 a month and $11,000 yearly, she's still saving money, and it will save money over the long time. Another person says, private, no, but Medicaid, yes. Go figure. Isn't that amazing? Yet another person said, not in Canada. It doesn't. 2.5 to 3 year waiting list for government funding. We paid privately so our son could get the help he needed. Outrageous cost, but worth the money. He has responded to it amazingly. Couldn't wait for the government. He would be too far behind. You know, and we see that time and time again, that people are left with choices about, well, you know, you can pay out of pocket or you can wait. And, you know, there were a lot of people that got that answer from Kaiser years ago, and they went ahead and got the ABA, and then they just won the settlement. It's hard. It's hard, and it feels like it's impossible, but parents have made it work. Another person who says that yes, in Massachusetts that they are getting coverage, and somebody else who says yes, but not the $25 copayment. And sometimes that $25 copayment is per day. Sometimes it is per session. And so for kids that are having 2 and sometimes even 3 sessions a day, the cost can be very, very high. Make sure that you know what your full out-of-pocket is, so that you know whether that co-payment lasts the entire year, and then apply for grants. We talk about them from time to time here on the show. There are more places that are covering the co-payments and the deductibles. Many more are needed, but don't be left out. You know, keep asking. and it depends on where you are. And we'll let you know when the next grant phase is available for autism care and treatment. Today we'll ask Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson about that when she's here with us tomorrow, because that's one of the places that you can go to get support for co-payments and deductibles. We've also mentioned before on the show some of my big top favorites, the United Healthcare Children's Fund, that you can Google that, and that's a one-time $5,000 grant for treatments that have been shown to be effective. ABA is included on that, and that you do not have to have United Healthcare to be eligible for that grant, but it's only for one time. So next year you'd have to do something else, but that can really, $5,000, right? It's a lot of paperwork, but you know, it's very doable, and they like to give grants. And then of course, if it's just a loan that you need, I'm a big fan of the Jewish Free Loan Association, who lent us money way back when. You don't have to be Jewish, and it's interest-free, a lot of paperwork, and you do have to be paying it back, but it can make the difference. And I know personally they were incredible with us, so kind and considerate. It was truly, truly amazing. So whatever you have to do, to help yourself, and please let us know where you're having a difficulty, and we'll be happy to steer you towards a resource that we're aware of. All right, we're going to take another break and be back with you with some news updates and some really important resources to share. Stick with us. Happy Halloween. We're here today to show you some really easy, healthy recipes that you can make for Halloween with your children. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is make this lovely cauliflower brain. And the ingredients that we need for this, we need some sort of a platter. We need a cauliflower, and we have an organic cauliflower here. Emily, take it away for us.
We have some natural guacamole, some organic salsa, some potato chips, and then some pull string licorice.
Okay, so those are all the things that we're going to need. Plus we have a very sharp knife and a spoon. So using the knife and preparing the cauliflower can be something you can do beforehand, before you call the children in, depending on their ages and their skill level. All right, so we're going to pull the leaves off of this and put the pieces away. You can compost them if you do that sort of thing, or just throw them away. You want to remove all of the green. This part might be fun actually for the kids. It's a difficult one. I'm just going to slice this part off and pull some more of the green out, because there's no green on the brain. But one key thing here is that we want to slice off just the tip here so that it's going to sit flat like a brain. And this is the point where the kids can be really helpful. If you have it already measured, and that's about 1.5 cups of salt, so whatever size platter you're using, and you can have them dump it right on the plate, and that's a pretty enjoyable part of it. Swish it around. Okay, we can put the cauliflower right in the middle of it. And you can see how easy this is. Super duper easy. Has big impact if you're doing a Halloween party. But it's also having fun with your veggies, something that we want to do with the kids. And we can take the chips. I'm going to let you do that with the licorice while I throw some chips around the plate. And these, by the way, are organic, oven-fried, no-salt chips. You can use whatever you want, but we want to keep this as healthy as possible. And she's laying those laces around so they look like the veins of the brain that has gone bad. You can see it just takes a couple of minutes, and you end up with this lovely, delicious, healthy brain for the children to eat. And it looks good on the table, too. Tastes good too, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Right now, what we're gonna make are hot dog mummies. These are really fun. You can see our finished ones over here. We only need a few things for this. We need some hot dogs. Right now we're using organic chicken hot dogs that are fully cooked, which is a wonderful thing. We have some mustard. We have some all-natural crescent dough on a plastic sheet that we can roll it out on. We have our rolling pin. I have a little bit of coconut flour, but you can use any kind of flour flour that you want. This just smells awesome, and we have a sharp knife. So this is the part of the project that we want to be careful around kids. You could use a duller knife or a plastic knife, or do this part yourself when the kids aren't around. But if you open up your refrigerated dough and you roll it out, just throw a little bit of coconut flour onto it so that it doesn't stick as much to the rolling pin, and roll it out so that you can't see the lines anymore. Oh, it smells good, doesn't it? I love the smell of coconut flour. And it bakes really a wonderful scent too into the whole house. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect, because the great thing about this recipe is that it's very forgiving. If the dough breaks when you're wrapping up the hot dog, it's okay, because the mummy can have lots of different bandages. All right, we're gonna go and just cut through this dough. And they can be different width strips, it doesn't really matter. And you really could do this with a plastic knife. I want to mention too that if you have dietary considerations and you need something to be gluten-free, I did this the other day for my son with a gluten-free pizza crust mix, and it worked the same. I just had to be really careful. I thought that the key to it all was getting the dough really dry while I was rolling it out and cutting it out, and then wetting it before I wrapped it around the dry hot dogs. Okay, so I'm gonna take one hot dog and Emily's gonna take another, and part of the fun of this is that you want to make like a little hat so that there is a place later on to put eyeballs made out of mustard. So you can wrap it around the head, make like a turban for your mummy, and then start to, and you see it broke. Doesn't matter, because it's dough and it can be a separate bandage. It's not a problem. You just wrap it around. The kids love this because they know they're going to get to eat it later on. It's very healthy and a quick dinner that makes it really fun. You just slather it on. And then we're going to bake it for about 12 to 14 minutes at a 350-degree oven. See? Easy. He's got a head. Oh, yours is so much prettier than mine. She's Martha Stewart. Okay, so we're going to put that into the oven. We don't need to do anything else. And I put it on some parchment paper so that I don't have to use any kind of spray or oil or anything and add ingredients. We're going to stick it into the oven, and through magic, this is what they look like when they're done. And the other fun element of this is that then you take the mustard and you can give it to the kids for them to put eyes right on, and Emily's going to do that. Awesome. And if you want bloody mummies, you can include ketchup. So, and those are big eyes. The other day when I did this with my son, he wanted to put sliced olives on top of the mustard for eyes. But you can see that these are cute, they're tasty, and really healthy. Those are mummy hot dogs. And you can write Happy Halloween in mustard if you're Martha Stewart. Very good.
All right, we're gonna move on to some spooky spider cupcakes. So what you're gonna wanna do is bake a box of regular brand cupcake, or they have gluten-free, sugar-free options as well.
Awesome ones, yes.
Which are great. I pre-made these cupcakes standard. Cupcake rules apply. You'll need some eggs and some oil and water. But we've gone ahead and done that already. So what you want to do is take some chocolate frosting, and we're going to frost our cupcake with a thin layer. Doesn't need to be too crazy.
Ooh.
Yes.
Smells good too.
Does smell good. And then we brought some blue sprinkles, and these are naturally colored with vegetable juice, correct?
Vegetable juice, blue.
Which is fantastic. And so these are blue, and then we're going to just sprinkle the top of our cupcake here.
Awesome.
For eyes, I just got some jelly beans here of different colors. You can use M&Ms or whatever you're more comfortable using. And all you want to do is split your jelly bean in half. So there's your eyeball, Shannon.
Awesome.
I'll have orange eyes on mine. And then you're just going to place them in the front of the cupcake. And then for their little scary legs, we've got some pull and peel Twizzler here, but they also sell natural candy rope, which you can use as well. So then we're just going to pull off our little legs, and the cupcakes are soft enough where you can actually stick the little leg right into it.
And you're just jamming them down?
Just jam them in there.
Alrighty. Ooh, look at that leg.
And this is a good time to teach your kids about bugs and that they have 8 legs.
That's a great thing to add to the lesson. And you know, there's lots of different other things too. Like I have frosting on my hands, and sometimes kids don't like that. It's a flexibility issue. But this is a wonderful way in which to work on those things so that, you know, they can take those skills with them later on. If it's at home and it's a little bit of frosting with you, it's a little bit more reinforcing because it tastes good than if they're on the schoolyard and it's mud and things like that.
And then once you're done, you have your little 8-legged friend.
Mine looks like he needs a haircut, but but they're very fun and they taste good, and the kids will enjoy working on these.
That's right, and they're super cute.
They are. And that's Halloween. Healthy and fast and fun. Welcome back to Autism Live. Those look like 2 entirely different women, quite frankly. Don't know who those women are. But in any case, they're still fun food crafts. I wanted to update you on a couple of things going on. Tomorrow, we'll have Ask Dr. Doreen in the morning. Dr. Doreen Grambachet will be here with us in the morning. And then in the second hour, when we have Nancy Allspaw-Jackson for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, we are going to have 2 amazing young people with us. They are USC students who are interns who have started a parent support group. Now, if you're in the Los Angeles area, this is something you're really going to be interested in. But I think it's beneficial for us to talk about it with them because this could happen everywhere. I don't know about you, but I think having a parent support group where people can meet and talk about what's going on in a non-judgmental way is vital, and it needs to be something that's free of cost, right? So in any case, we've got a flyer here, and they're going to be talking about it tomorrow. The flyer says, are you a parent, a guardian, or of a child with autism spectrum disorder? They want you to join them for an opportunity to connect with others experiencing similar situations, share your stories and gain insight, learn about autism and the treatment process, and find resources, and most of all, to be heard. They're welcoming all families of children with autism spectrum disorders to attend a weekly parent support group. It's happening on Wednesdays from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. or for those of you who work during the day, Wednesdays from 6:30 to 7:30. So there's those 2 opportunities, which I think is so wise. That will be held in the building from which we're webcasting. It's the CARD office, the headquarters office. The address is 19019 Ventura Boulevard. You will go up to the 3rd floor. It's in Suite 300 in the conference room, and that is in Tarzana, California. If you want more information, Alexandro and Aliza will be with us tomorrow on the show. They're going to be talking about that and some of the other projects that they're working on here. But if you want to see what one person can do, the difference that they can make, I'm sure you'll find that interesting, and maybe it will help you to start a parent support group where you are. Wanted to do a couple of little updates. Of course, we're going to talk about what's going on in the missing Avonte 14-year-old in New York in the second hour. You know, the government is still on shutdown, and there was a story about, I had asked you guys before we left about how is it affecting you and is it affecting your services, and I think sometimes it takes a while for people to say, okay, this is how it's affecting us, this is how it's getting in our way. There was a story that was in the New York Daily News about a group of young people who are special needs, including 100 people with autism in the New York City area who have been shut out of their services at the Aviator Sports Center. It's a massive complex of basketball courts, indoor and outdoor fields, event spaces, and a hockey rink, and it's a federally owned facility that was in shutdown. 165 full and part-time employees are out of work, and thousands of people who use the complex each week are out of luck, including those 100 children who had their autism, not only children, children and adults with autism who are enrolled in day programs there. One mom of a young man who's 25 years old and who is nonverbal, who uses those services, was quoted as saying that this is a really predictable daily routine that he desperately needs. And she said, this completely disrupts everything he knows. My son knows where the bathrooms are at Aviator. Now I don't even know where he is or where the group is going to be. I don't know how comfortable I feel letting him go out and not knowing where his destination is. It's literally, this young man doesn't have a place to go. And she went on to add, I guarantee if anyone in Congress had a child like any of these children, maybe they would change some of the decision making. So we are going to continue to cover stories like this until such time as the government shutdown is over. We want to encourage you that if you are having services limited in any way because of the government shutdown, we'd like to know that so we can add it to the growing list of ways that it is affecting our kids. And it may be something that, you know, maybe you're forced to not go to work and your job has nothing to do with autism, but you're trying to support a family that has a child with autism. We'd like to know those stories so that we can forward those on to our lawmakers and let them know that this has an impact. Absolutely has an impact. All right, we are going to take a break and go to the A Word now. This is the ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, following a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2, and he is, oh my goodness, such a precious light in this world and doing so well. And what a wonderful opportunity that his parents made accessible for us to see how this therapy happens in a home, what it means for the family, what it means for siblings, what it means for the child, and the fact that it's not always easy, but it's always worth it. So take a look. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast. Exciting. I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
I think Suzanne has her camera to take a picture of me.
That's true. What are you doing today?
I'm going to the park.
And what are we going to do at the park?
Say hi to 5 kids.
Cool.
Let's do it, Jack. I think there are a lot of kids out here. Hi.
Jessica, Jack Riley, and Dad are at the park again to give Jack Riley an opportunity to socialize with peers. Here, unlike at school, Jessica can observe to see how he's doing and prompt him when necessary. Their goal today is to say hi to 6 kids and have him get used to using several different phrases to initiate conversation. As they go on more outings, Jessica will prompt him less and the conversations will become more natural.
You want to come play with me, guys? What are you doing? I'm building a tower. I found a rock.
I used to be terrified to come to a park.
How old is he now?
He's 4.
He's 4.
Since December.
Yeah, we had issues and doubts with him at some point.
Yeah.
It's the best thing that happened for us, though, because then you go get the services that you need as opposed to just waiting for him to get. So he's had 2 years of fantastic help.
And now he's talking and
talking and conversations. Now he won't shut up. Okay, go to sleep. Daddy, but wait. Right, thanks very much. My name's Mike.
My name's Ronnie.
Ronnie, nice to meet you. Today was a great day at the park. For me, too. I met some nice people. I don't think anyone there, aside from the camera, thought there was anything different about my son.
No, what made today so good?
Just he was playing with other kids. He was engaging. I didn't think about the A word, autism, the whole time. I was just thinking, there's my kid playing with other kids. That's a lie. I always think about it, I guess, but I don't know. He was calm. He was having fun. I've seen the last 2 days. I've seen joy on his face for extended periods of time. making progress, man.
Welcome back to Autism Live. That was the A Word, amazing, amazing series, ongoing documentary that you can watch on their very own YouTube channel. And I encourage you to watch it in whatever way suits you best. You can go back to the beginning and be watching through. You can watch what's happening right now with Jack Riley. Try to find the spot that makes the most sense to you, either where your child is right now, or just to see what happens with the parents. The story that the parents tell on this journey of what it's like for them alone is amazing, but then the opportunity to see the progress that the child makes is truly remarkable. I hope that you'll watch it, though, because it is a great representation of what can happen when kids have access to the right things. It's not going to be easy ever, but it is possible to make important progress. Now, we've been talking about insurance all this week, and we're going to continue to talk about insurance. We were reading some of the answers that you guys had written in about, we asked you yesterday, do you have ABA coverage or insurance coverage? And many of you wrote in no. Somebody wrote in from Canada and said that they were having a really hard time and that they were on a terrible waiting list. So our good friend Mike Hipple, who writes to us from time to time, said, I know that in Canada they can't pay for communication devices also. And Mike uses a communication device to communicate. And so I know that that's a subject that's very near and dear to your heart, Mike. Mike also went on to say our president, I'm assuming you mean our president's healthcare system, is just like what they have in Canada. It's really scary to me, and it should be scary to everyone. And of course, Mike, I totally appreciate your opinion. I think everybody's got opinions about the Obamacare, the healthcare, the Affordable Health Care Act and what it's going to mean. I don't pretend to know what it will mean for us down the road. I know that the system that we have is not working for a lot of people. I don't know that the system that they're putting in place is going to work. For me, there's still a lot of question marks. I have my concerns on both sides. I have been somebody that for years couldn't afford to and worked for an employer years ago who did not pay health insurance, and so I had none. I have been in a position where I have had an HMO and saw what that was like, and I, have been in a position where I've had a PPO with an incredible deductible, and seen what that is like. I think the system is broken. I talk with friends who don't have children on the autism spectrum about where they are in terms of their health insurance and what the Affordable Health Care Act may or may not mean for them. And I feel that as a parent of a child on the autism spectrum, that my experience is different. I am looking at this healthcare system and saying, what does this do for our kids on the spectrum? I know what the intent was. I was very riveted in the process, and we have a lot to thank Autism Speaks, because it was, they spent a lot of time making sure that behavioral health would be included in the 10 essential benefits that would be covered in the Affordable Health Care Act. I don't know about you, but I have watched as everybody has stuck their fingers into the pie and watered it down to the point where I'm curious at this point about what it is going to mean for each individual. And I'm very excited that on Thursday, Julie Kornack is going to be here to talk about looking at the exchange and figuring out what it means for you, for your individual family, and which plan is going to benefit you in terms of getting those all-important ABA services. It certainly isn't the only question mark because obviously you need health coverage for your family for everything, not just for autism, but for so long autism has been left out of the story, and it's essential. It should be part of the essential health benefits. So we'll see how it all shakes down. So much is up in the air again. I don't even know what to think. But I know that our kids deserve it. They deserve ABA. We know science has shown clearly that ABA is effective at creating progress and will help for our kids to not be solely dependent upon a system and be institutionalized. All of which, beyond the fact that it's often inhuman, costs more money than we can make, right? If 1 in 50 school-age children in the United States have autism, there isn't enough money that can institutionalize all of those children, even if it were morally right, which is it isn't. Our kids deserve this ABA therapy. Our teenagers deserve to have things, support in place so that they can be productive teenagers and be gainfully employed. And there need to be employment programs for our adults. All of these things are non-negotiable and should be included in the process of taking care of them as they age up into those older years. We also know that there are healthcare concerns as individuals who are on the autism spectrum reach their senior years. We now have senior citizens who are on the spectrum, and whatever we end up with, we have to work to make sure that all of those things are included. It's essential. So we forge on, right? And we'll continue talking about insurance this week. I'll get off the soapbox now. All right, we're going to continue on with the show after these messages. Stick with us.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3. They shut down, and sometimes you think of the typical Rain Man movie. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up.
She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys, and that was about it. We have a team of 7 volunteers, or 8 now. We have 8 volunteers, including my husband and I, and I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks. And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial base? Well, what Skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing something, missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where Skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this?
Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before Skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know. In most manuals, you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for Skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked, and she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new Skills and being, you know, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because In 7 months' time, she's just blossomed into this normal, functioning child. And suddenly, we joke about it all the time, like suddenly we have twins.
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We had a question from a viewer who said a while back you guys featured a speaker who had a book, who'd written a book on tax strategies when incurring expenses with your autistic child. What was the name of that book? Thank you. The book was Bite Your Bills, and the author is Yolanda Baker. And it's a great book to have this time of year because I know a lot of us, we wait until the moment when the taxes are due to start going, but this is a great time of year to get Bite Your Bills and take a look, because she goes through all these different strategies of what you can be reimbursed for, what you can get taxes, you know, what you can include, but you got to have the documentation, and she tells you how to organize all of that. It's really an amazing, amazing book. So Bite Your Bills, and I believe it's biteyourbills.com that you can go to, and it is Yolanda Baker, a really amazing, amazing mom. Another person had written in over the break and wanted us to, wanted to know if there is any center for autism in the Bronx. Now, I'm sure that there are ABA providers in the Bronx, and no matter where you guys are writing in from, when you guys ask me a specific question about a specific place, the first thing that I do two things, actually. I go to the bcab.com site, and it says, are you looking for a provider? And I click yes, and then I go through and I put in the zip code of where I'm looking for, and it lists all of the BCBAs who are in that area. So I just sort of reference and go, oh, there's a lot, or oh, there's two, you know? So I keep that open, and then I go to Autism Speaks and I go to their resource page, and I do the same thing and put in the zip code, and it lists all of the different things that are available in that zip code area. And I'm pretty sure that you can put in a mile radius. And I go through and look at, what's available, what support groups are there, they have specialized service things there. They have ABA providers, and they'll list other types of therapy and treatment that are there as well, to sort of get a bead for what's going on. Then if you want to, you can look and see if there is a TACA group, support group. You can look on Facebook to see if there's a TACA support group there. And I always also look to see if there's an Autism Society of, and usually that's where I start. So if you're wondering, how I get access to information for you guys, I start there. And then I also ask questions about, does anybody know anybody in this area? So I haven't had an opportunity to do that for the Bronx. I can tell you, though, that there is a CARD office that is just north of the Bronx, but the Bronx would be within their scope. And so if you go to the center, if you go to centerforautism.com, click on the locations tab, you will see that there is a Larchmont office, which is just north of the Bronx. And they do service the Bronx. And you can either call the CARD 800 number to begin the process of going through to see about getting services from them, or you can call the direct number there, and that's on the website for the individual office. But there is a CARD office. I'm sure that there are other offices as well. I've always said to you guys, I'm unapologetic about the fact that, my son got services from CARD. I know the people involved in CARD. I know what the mission is, and I know how much care they take at each step along the way. So I'm a huge fan of CARD. But I'm sure that there are other services as well, and would encourage you to check out on Autism Speak to see what resources are there. Okay, so we are going to take another break, and we will be back after these messages. Stick with us.
The Institute for Behavioral Training provides courses in applied behavior analysis for the treatment of autism. Access IBT e-learning videos on the move and learn at your own pace.
I'm going to talk a little bit about intensity.
IBT e-learning makes any location your classroom on the go.
So our objectives for today are to really learn what is autism and how is it diagnosed.
Get professional guidance with IBT face-to-face training. IBT face-to-face training courses prepare you to effectively implement ABA-based interventions. Choose between small group and one-to-one instruction. Earn BCBA supervision hours via one-to-one video conferencing.
So I had a chance to review your BIP today. You know what? It looked really good. You did a good job with it.
IBT continuing education courses. Earn credit through webinars, conferences, article reviews, and e-learning videos. You can learn more at ibehavioraltraining.com. IBT, 360 degrees of ABA training.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We just received news that Matt Asner is not well today, and so he's not going to be with us today, but hopefully we're going to be able to reschedule with him a little bit later on in the week. And we were kind of waiting until he came because I wanted to talk about the update about Avonte. Avonte is the 14-year-old who went missing on October 4th from his school in New York City, from the Central Boulevard School in Long Island City, which is part of it's part of Queens. I used to live in Long Island City. I should know that. In any case, it is a devastating story, and we hope that there is still time for there to be a happy resolution. They are desperately looking for Avonte. Avonte is, as I said, 14 years old, and he has managed, this is the 4th time that he has eluded his aide, his one-on-one aide at school, and was able to get outside of his school. Now, the other 3 times that Avonte went missing, they found him in the subways. Like a lot of children on the autism spectrum, he has a fixation with trains, and because he lives close enough to the subways, it's when he escapes, that is where he has gone the other 3 times that he eloped. So the original and still, concern is that he might be somewhere in the tunnels in the subway system. So it's been many days now. I will say this, and his mother has hit it right on the head. She has said that this is heartbreaking. It absolutely is. And I can't imagine that I can't imagine what it's like for her and for her family. But they are taking extreme measures to see if they can find Avonte. There is now a growing reward. It is up to $77,500. That is as of this morning. CNN reported that this morning, and we know that there was construction that was happening at one place in the tunnels in the New York City subway system, and that the Transit Authority took everyone off of the building, the construction that was happening, and put them to work searching for Avonte. They have used every resource. CNN has reported that they suspended overnight track maintenance this weekend, and that workers combed the underground network. All 468 New York City subway stations have been searched, and aviation, harbor, and canine officers have been mobilized and deployed periodically throughout this last week. I know, like many of you, we're watching the clock and being concerned about how long this continues. But we do know that in 2009, there was another teenager who was on the autism spectrum who was lost in the subway system for 11 days and successfully found and was all right. So, there is still hope. I understand that Avonte's brother, Daniel, is concerned now at this point and is fearing that he was abducted. And we hope that he is not hurt. If anybody does have any information about where Avonte is, of course, you want to make sure that you notify the authorities in New York City. There are posters that are everywhere. I know that Police Commissioner Ray Kelly held up a missing poster during their Columbus Day parade yesterday that he has said, quote, "We have redoubled our efforts. We have hundreds of police officers and detectives engaged in this search. We've enlisted the help of the Guardian Angel Society and many, many volunteers." We also are hearing that the family has hired an attorney, and that the attorney is looking into how he was able to leave the school grounds unsupervised. I first want to say that our thoughts and our prayers are with this family, and I hope that we can find Avonte still, and that he is safe, and that they will. I can't even imagine for a young person with autism to be missing that long. It's just devastating. I hope that schools around the world are watching and realizing how important it is that we get the proper training for AIDS. And if you think that it's just something that we're, going to put paid to just having said that, it's not. On Friday of this week, we're going to have Dr. Adele Nadowski here with us on Friday to talk about what AIDS can do to make sure that a child who elopes is safe, what needs to have happen. If nothing else, you can watch that and take that back to your child's aid and hopefully ensure that one by one, even if the schools aren't going to do it, as parents and individuals who are on the spectrum, that we ensure the safety of those in our community. If we have to, we'll train them ourselves, but we can't have this continue to happen. We know that this is a very real problem, elopement, and aides have to be trained properly. It's inexcusable to me that this is the fourth time that this young man has come missing. And it's not because I think, I have no knowledge of who the aide is, and it's not, I don't assume that this aide is being lazy. I assume, and maybe incorrectly, that this aide has not been taught. After the first time he went missing, it's time to do things a little bit different, right? And sometimes it takes lawyering up. I don't think that it needs to be that way if schools would pay attention, but they're not. So I'm glad that the family has lawyered up, and I hope that I hope that they still get their child back safe, and that the conversation continues about how do we make our kids safe. We'll keep our prayers going for Avonte and for his family. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with more after these messages.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. You know, whenever we hear a story like about Avonte and children who escape, invariably it squeezes my heart and it reminds me how we need to go back to ABA basics on a regular basis. And that's not just for people who have children who escape. That includes me as a parent of a child who's doing quite well and very high functioning. It's really important that we remember what it is we're doing and why we're doing and why it's effective. So I just want to take a second to go back and talk a little bit about challenging behavior and autism, what the two have to do with each other and how we combat them and how we use the ABCs of behavior and our ABA techniques to change the equation. So we know our kids, and we know that they have, there's a big, vast spectrum of children and adults and individuals on the autism spectrum. And within that spectrum, people can have vastly different behaviors. And we refer to challenging behavior when it's something that gets in the way of them making progress towards their goals, when it gets in the way of them making progress towards being able to live independently or learn, and when it impedes other people's ability to enjoy their life and achieve their goals, right? Anything that would be included in there is what we're going to call challenging behavior. So it may be that your child is happy and thrilled to sit and, you know, do this endlessly. But as a result of doing this endlessly, they can't learn how to read and they can't learn how to write, and so they're not going to communicate. Well, that's challenging behavior because it's preventing them from being able to make the progress they could otherwise. I know that there are many schools of thought, and people go, well, if they like doing this, yeah, okay. It doesn't mean that they can't ever do it, but you know, there's an old saying that a group of friends and I have, is it a choice or a problem? Because if it's something that they can't stop from doing, then it's a problem. If it's a choice, if my child is at the point where he can make the choice, all right, I've got a few minutes and I'm just going to unwind and I'm going to do this, hey, that's fabulous. But if this prevents my child from ever having a friend, then for me, that's a challenge. That's a problem behavior, that's a challenging behavior, and I want to be able to move it into the choice column. I want him to be able to make the choice. We all have things that we do, right? That we wouldn't do in certain circumstances. That the person who, when they get sick, likes to just moan, right? That's perfectly acceptable, except if they couldn't stop it, right? Then it would prevent them from being able to do things in their life, and it would prevent other people. Many people write in and say, if my child were an only child, I don't know, maybe I would let them do this more often, but it's driving their siblings insane, right? Then it's a challenging behavior. Now, we see that challenging behavior is no stranger when we have kids and individuals and teens and even adults on the autism spectrum. But a lot of times we have this old antiquated thought that, well, that's just the autism. I myself have been guilty of and still sometimes participate in this thinking that is limiting. We don't have to look at it that way, because if you look at the DSM-4 or the DSM-5, it will not say, oh, and the children kick, or the children spit, or they play with their spit, or they play with strings, or they hum constantly, right? There are repetitive and restrictive behaviors that are included in that, in the autism diagnosis, but not and that it impedes their life in some way, but kicking people, screaming at the top of their lungs, these kinds of behaviors aren't included. And we know that even those behaviors that are included in the diagnosis, we can change the equation. How do we do that? Well, we look at the ABCs of behavior. We talk about this all the time. This is really back to basics, that the A stands for antecedent, the B stands for the behavior, and the C stands for the consequence. And for everything that every living being on this planet does, everything that any kind of behavior that they engage in, there is an A, a B, and a C. And that includes our kids on the autism spectrum. It includes us. It includes goldfish. It includes plants, right? Something happens, there's a behavior, and then, I don't know if plants really do behavior. I'll take that back. But definitely animals exhibit behavior, right? So we look at the behavior in question, and we say, what is the A? What's the A that's happening before this behavior is happening? What changed that this behavior suddenly occurred, and what happened as a consequence of this behavior occurring? So if a child elopes, if a child is escaping, we want to look at this behavior and say, when is it happening? Under what circumstances is it happening? What does it look like when they elope? Where are they going when they elope? Why do we think that this behavior is happening? So we start to ask questions, and there's a lengthy process called an FBA, a functional behavior assessment, that addresses that. And it's really important that we have experts, especially when it's challenging behavior, do an FBA to tell us, you know, all the different things that are happening around this behavior. But we can help the experts and help ourselves by doing a very easy process. I've got my sheet of paper here. I'm going to fold it in 3. I now have 3 columns on this piece of paper, and I can mark an A, a B, and a C on these columns, and I can carry it with me. And I can do this on behavior that I exhibit, or I can do it on behavior that my child exhibits, or I can do this on my student that I have in class, and I go, you know, I'm having a problem with Johnny in class, that Johnny constantly is having a problem with throwing his crayons on the floor, or Johnny is eating his crayons, or Johnny is stealing crayons, whatever it happens to be. And in my head, I think to myself, you know, he does it all the time. Really? Well, let's make sure. Let's really do an ABC chart on this behavior. So I keep this piece of paper with me, and I notice that at 3:15 this afternoon in the after-school class, Johnny started to eat his crayons. So I write down 3:15, and the first thing that I'm going to do is in the B column, I'm going to write down what exactly did the behavior look like. The experts call this the topography of the behavior. So I might write here 3:15, Johnny started eating crayons, and he ate the purple crayon first, and he took the wrapper off of it, and he ate the purple crayon, and then he ate the brown crayon with the wrapper on it. It may not be significant, but it might be. So I'm going to write it down. What did it look like? And, you know, and he ate crayons until he spit the purple crayon out, right? Okay, so now I've got the behavior, what the behavior looked like. He's eating crayons. This is not okay. This is, you know, really not a good situation. So then I'm going to go backwards, and I'm going to go into my A column, and I'm going to write what happened right before he started eating crayons. I'm noting that it's at 3:15. Was it right after the snack? It was right after they were out on the playground. It was right after I asked Johnny to redo the paper that he was doing because he colored outside the lines. It could be all of those things, but I'm going to write down anything that I can remember. It might be something that I didn't notice, and we have to leave room for that, right? But we're doing detective work, which means we may not get the answer right away, but after a period of time, it's going to shape up to, we're going to get some clues, right? We're being Sherlock Holmes here. And eventually we're going to hand this paper to an expert who's going to go, well, here's how here's some questions that I want to ask based on this, right? It's going to save them time. It's going to save you money. Okay, so I've written down what happened in the before column. Now I want to go over to the C column, and I want to write, okay, so eventually the behavior stopped. What happened around that? Did I take the crayons away from the child and say, you can't eat these crayons? Is that what happened? Or did he gag and he threw one up and then he threw up the rest of the afternoon and he got sick? I want to know what the consequences were. Did the other kids laugh when he was eating the crayons? What happened as a result? A lot of times we call this the shame column because you don't realize it in the moment, but when you go to do the consequence for the behavior and you write down and you go, oh, I don't think that's what I was supposed to do, right? It's okay. Write down what happened, right? No judgment. You write down what actually happened, not what you wished happened. No revisionist history here, right? We're trying to help ourselves and help the individual, so we got to be honest here. Okay, so we do this and then we draw a line. So this is one incident. And then we take a minute and think about it. Maybe you say to yourself, I wish I hadn't reacted that way. I yelled at him. So you say, okay, next time I'm going to try to do something different, right? You may notice, oh, well, it happened when I left him alone with the crayons. I left him alone with the crayons and said, do what you want. So next time I might try some supervision. Sorry, you're trying to, get a beat on what's happening. But you hang on to this sheet, and the next time that he eats the crayons, you mark the time again. Now, you might notice that this time it's at 9:15 in the morning. So it's not a time of day thing, but what was the antecedent this time? Was it that once again he had colored outside the lines and you came over and said, hey, don't color outside the lines, right? You'll start to see some patterns. It may or may not help you to decide what the paycheck for the behavior is. But here's the one thing we know, and research for probably over 100 years has clearly demonstrated this. There's a paycheck, or it wouldn't keep happening. There is no behavior that any of us do over and over and over again unless there's a paycheck. We're getting some sort of reward for it. I don't know what the reward is here, so I'm trying to figure it out. I've put on my Sherlock Holmes hat. I've got my Sherlock Holmes pipe, looking at it, looking for clues. Is the paycheck for this that he got out of? I asked him to redo it and not color in the lines, but the paycheck was he ate the crayons and I didn't make him redo it. That might be worthwhile. Instead of having to do it over again the way the teacher wants, if I eat the crayons, I don't have to do it over again. Or it may be that when he ate the crayons, the pretty little girl who sits next to him smiled at him and laughed at him. And so he's going to keep eating the crayons because he likes the pretty little girl smiling at him and laughing at him. Thinks that that's a good thing. Doesn't understand that that's not a good thing. It may be that the crayons taste good. I don't know. But I do know there is a paycheck. So when Avonte was escaping from school, there was a paycheck. Now, if we don't know what the paycheck is, we're not going to be effective at changing the behavior. But how about this? If we know that for this child that eats the crayons, that if we do a whole FBA on this and the person who's a BCBA who did the FBA says, I've done all the research and it seems like the paycheck is that the pretty girl is laughing and smiling, then we're going to rearrange the classroom a little bit and we're going to make sure that when we hand out crayons, that little girl for the next couple of weeks, maybe not forever, but she's busy doing an activity over here. And we're not going to give the opportunity for the other kids to smile and laugh when he gets the crayons. We're also going to find a replacement behavior so that he's got some other way that is appropriate, that isn't harmful, that little girl has an opportunity to smile and laugh at him. We're going to give him the paycheck in a different appropriate circumstance, but we're going to cut off the supply to the paycheck for this behavior that is not okay. I don't know why Avonte was escaping from school. I know that it's been reported that he loved to go to the trains, loved to go to the trains. Now, that may or may not have been the reason why he escaped, but if we knew that there was a child who loved to go and see trains, we would do everything within our power to make sure that if they attempted to escape from school, that they never got to see the trains then. And we would create some sort of a reward system that was really easy to follow, where he could request, either by pointing at an icon or typing on an assisted device and saying, I want to go see the trains. And in the beginning, we would have the aide probably leave the school and go look at the trains when he requested appropriately, and then work up to the point where he could go a whole day, and if he got certain rewards, then he could go and see the trains. That might be one strategy. There would be several different things that could be done, but we don't just accept, oh, this child loves trains and he escapes, and we just have to have this child on full lockdown the rest of his life in hopes that he never escapes to the train. There are alternatives. There are things that we can do to change these challenging behaviors. We reported to you last week before we went on break about the family that had a surgical procedure done to their son because he screamed so many times a day, and it was upsetting to their other young man on the spectrum as well. 2 kids on the spectrum, and the family was desperate. So they had a surgical procedure done to alter, not permanently, alter the one son, the screamer's vocal cords, so that he wouldn't be so high-pitched and so annoying. And I feel for that family, and I don't know all the different things that they did, but the one thing I know for sure is that there was a behavioral intervention that could have done that, what that surgical procedure did. We know this. Research has shown this, that if we go about this very systematically and change the paychecks, change the antecedents and the consequences, we can be effective at changing these behaviors, whether it's this or screaming or eloping. Time and time again, even hard cases, sometimes it takes longer, but even hard cases, really qualified BCBAs with great training, with great experience with individuals with autism are able to change those behaviors. Spread the word. That's all I can say to you. And if you're having some of these situations at home, please, please contact the BCBA in your area. Let us know what funding help you need, finding funding sources, so that we can help you to make that a reality, because your child deserves it. You deserve it. And it's not just children, by the way. Teenagers. Avonte is a teenager, and adults. All of these behaviors can be changed. The older somebody is, maybe the longer the process is, because it takes a while to change the habit, right? But don't believe in that phrase about you can't teach an older person new tricks. It's wrong. We can teach anybody a new tricks by knowing what the behavior is, what the paycheck is, and altering either what happens before or altering the consequence, and doing that time and time again, systematically. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back to close out the show. Stick with us.
Riley has high-functioning autism, and I'd say I noticed somewhere between 9 months and a year. Looking back now, I can tell you everything. I mean, there was no pointing, there was no shared experiences, speech was not coming, the interactive play was not coming, those things weren't happening. You know, you go to the pediatrician, they tell you, well, sometimes boys are slow or things might take a while to come along, but it still wasn't happening. And right when he hit the 2-year-old room in preschool is when the wheels fell off the wagon. That's when we got some intervention. That's when we figured out, you know, how are we going to address this problem. The first thing I did was I got a mentor, because there's no book on what to do with your autistic child. I mean, there's many books, but each path is individual. So I got a mentor, a really nice woman named Marlene. She has a daughter with Asperger's, and she told me, go to a psychiatrist so you can have your child fully diagnosed and a rock solid diagnosis that can't really be attacked, call CARD and do whatever they tell you to do. That was probably the thing she talked about the most. Get in touch with CARD. She actually put me in touch with Evelyn from CARD, and calling CARD was like amazing, because I really felt like things were finally going to be okay. We were going to get the help we needed.
We tried a number of different things before we could get into CARD, and you could really see the difference in the data keeping, really addressing what his issues were, whereas the other places we had been, it seemed pointless to me.
We've talked about this, and I feel like we met a lot of really nice, well-intentioned people.
Right.
And then when we got to CARD, we met a lot of really nice people who could help us because they had the experience. It was ABA, which I think is the only way to go with your child if you're trying to overcome autism. And if you go to CARD, the people are so qualified, and there's so much of a database on how to approach this. It's just like they come right in, and we started off with, let's have Riley sit down for 2 seconds, because he couldn't even get that. And we worked on baby steps until now he's in 1st grade and he's working at grade level. So it just starts with baby steps, and it keeps working on because they have a way to approach every single problem, every single tantrum, every single thing you're going to come up with. They have a way to approach it and help you get through it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, like at our clinic, we'll be having a specific problem, and how good they are, all of them, the therapists and your team leader, at coming up with a solution, something to try, and it almost always works. Whatever the particular behavior you're trying to deal with, they're really good at them. They know the answers.
He likes a lot of stuff, I think, regular 7-year-olds like. He likes to swim.
He loves to swim.
He's a fish. Likes to ride a scooter, loves Toy Story, loves playing on the iPad. Loves
Justin Bieber.
Good job, buddy.
High five.
High five.
High five.
Yeah.
CARD's been good about encouraging us to do things that maybe wouldn't occur to us, like him learning to ride a bike was really them saying, hey, it's time, let's do this, and helping us do that so he can ride a bike. He's still working on the brakes a little bit, but you know, he can pedal a bike. We can go to Balboa Park and he'll ride happy as a clam along the bike path.
If you think something's wrong, it's not about you. Don't bury your head in the sand. Go get help, because the help is out there to make your life and your child's life just so much better. And if you're lucky enough to get in with CARD, I can't even tell you what a difference it's made in our lives. From 4 years ago, just the quality of life we have, the quality of life Riley has, the progress he's made from being a child who wanted to stay in his room and play Toy Story and line up his Toy Story dolls all day, to a 1st grader who's working at grade level. It couldn't have happened without CARD intervention, without ABA, and without all the wonderful people we met there.
Welcome back. We have been talking about challenging behavior, and I wanted to give you an update on the Disney Guest Assistance Card, which ended officially last Tuesday. A week ago today was the last day that you could use the Guest Assistance Pass. And the first day that they were using the new Guest Disability Pass, it was a very rainy day here in Los Angeles. I don't know what happened at Disney World, and it was originally our intention to go on the first day. We did not do that. I spoke with some people the Friday before from Disneyland. It was time for me to renew my pass, and so I had some concerns. As a parent of a child on the autism spectrum, I called the Disneyland guest assistance line and spoke about renewing my annual pass holder pass because we live in Southern California. I said, what happens if I pay for the pass and we come to the park and my child can't do it? I think that my child can, but I'm curious. And I'd like to know before I commit to paying, you know, several $100s for us to go for the year, what happens, because you won't tell me what the information is, and I've got to renew the pass. And I was told, unfortunately, if you renew your pass and it doesn't work out for you, there is no process in which you can get a refund. Okay, so eventually we decided to hold off and see what was happening, as is our right. So, and we also had shared with us that the Autism Society of Los Angeles was going to be on hand. They changed their date because of some of the weather. They were there, and they are there today. Excuse me, they were there yesterday. They were there yesterday to help parents with children to get the new disability assistance pass. It was a very busy day at Disneyland yesterday, but apparently, and they had several days, because it started last Wednesday, they had several days in which to perfect this. It took 1 to 2 hour wait just to get the card. This is what's being reported in this email that I got. So first you had to wait in line to park, right, which you're sitting down for that. Then you have to wait in line to get on the tram, and then you have to wait in line to get tickets. Everybody has to do that, right? But then on top of that, so at that point then, people who didn't have a disability were able to get in the park and immediately go to access rides and wait in line for individual rides. But people who were wanting the disability pass were having to wait a 1 to 2 hour wait just to get their pass. They report that the cast members were very nice, but did not really explain this very complicated system very well, and could not accommodate parents whose children had autism or other developmental disabilities, or individuals with extraordinary needs. So this is the new and not so improved system. You start at City Hall or Chamber of Commerce in the California Adventure. You are asked what difficulty your child has. They do not want to see any doctor's notes or other documentation. They will take your child's picture and print out a card. They will explain to you that you have to go to the kiosks that are throughout the park, and you will be asked what ride you would like to go on. They will write on the card the wait time. Yesterday, it was never less than 30 minutes and more like 60 minutes. You then have to wait around your allotted time, and then you can go on the ride. After your one ride is done, you go back to the kiosk and get another time for the next ride. Again, you have to figure out what to do for 60 minutes before going on the ride. We figure that with this new system, that the family with a child with a disability will only be able to go on 4 to 5 rides in an 8-hour day. The feedbacks from the parents that they spoke to was that it's a crazy system to do with a child with autism who has a problem waiting on the best of days. The parents were exhausted, frustrated, and just plain sad. It feels as though something has been taken away from their child's childhood that cannot be replaced. It is no longer the happiest place on earth. One cast member told a parent that they are going to have to strategize their day at the park. How nice of them to share that with us, because we couldn't have figured that out on our own. Our parents do not need one more thing to strategize. Their normal life is overwhelming and full of strategizing. Disneyland was the one place that they could go to that was fun for their entire family. Okay, so they're sending that feedback, and they would like more feedback if you've gone to Disneyland, or if you have feelings about how your child would participate in this. You can, this is from Kimberly McLean, the Director of Certified Special Education. She's a McLean Advocacy. We've shared their stuff before on the show. You can find them on Facebook, McLean Special Needs Advocacy, and they've got a petition going there. So, devastating, absolutely devastating. I will say I was angered when I was on the phone. We had been to Disneyland the week before, and when we were getting our very last guest assistance pass, there was somebody next to us, and I said to the cast member helping me, I said, I want to go on record. Can you mark down a little hash mark that I'm very unhappy about the fact this is changing? And the girl next to her said, I don't know why you would be unhappy about it. It's going to be great. And I said, really, you know the details and you can tell me about, because I'd love to hear what the details are. And she said, no, we don't know what the details are. And I said, then how can you know it's going to be great? And of course, she didn't like that. And then when I was on the phone, the person said to me, it's going to be great. And I know it's a Disneyland thing about it. It's all going to be okay, Mouseketeers. And I said, really? You can give me the details and tell me? And she said, well, we don't have any detail. Then how do you know it's going to be great? And she said to me, because Autism Speaks approved this. And I said, that is a lie. We had somebody from Autism Speaks on the show, and they did not approve this. You have not even cleared with them what it is. You've made some suggestions to them, and they made some suggestions back to you that said this will not work. That is not them signing off on this in any way, shape, or form. So I told her she was a liar. She didn't like that. But you know, sometimes you just have to speak the truth. So I'm very sad to hear. And I had said to her, it's just going to mean standing in line more. No, why would you think that? And I said, because now we have a new place. Besides standing in line at the ride, we have to go stand in line at the kiosk. There won't be any standing in line at the kiosks. I said, really? Have you even seen the kiosk yet? What, are they going to have 100 people working on it? How do you know? How can you know these things? But apparently there was the line just to get the first pass before you can go to the kiosk. And apparently you need to do that. I'm told, I don't know, it's not in this article here. Used to be that, especially if you were going with a child and you got the guest assistance pass, you could say if you were there for a stay of 3 or 4 days, but if you were a pass holder, you could get it for a 3-month period of time. So you didn't have to stand in that line every time you went. And I'm told that the new one, I believe it's the longest you can get is a 2-week, but I don't have confirmation on that. The other thing that really strikes me is that at one point here they talk about, oh, well, you can only get in 4 or 5 rides in an 8-hour day. I think it is the rare child on the autism spectrum that can do an 8-hour day at Disneyland. My child couldn't have in the beginning. And one of the things that made it very nice for us and made it the happiest place on earth for us was that we got the pass, and it was worthwhile for us because we would go once a month and just go for the afternoon. We couldn't have done 8 hours. And by having the pass, it made it affordable for us. It was still expensive, but that was part of his reward. He understood if he did good things that he got to go to Disneyland. And in that maybe 4-hour time period that we were there, we could get in those 4 or 5 rides. So I don't know if it's going to make sense for us to, if it would have made sense for us, if it would make sense for us now to go and spend an afternoon. It pretty much sounds like that is not going to be possible. Very, very sad set of circumstances, but that's your update. And I hope that you will go to McLean Special Needs on Facebook, and we need to make sure. Disney has said that they will change based on what our needs are, so we have to be squeaky wheel and let them know this doesn't work. I don't know how long and how many people it takes for them to know that it doesn't work, but you know, let's all add our voices to this because this is not feasible. All right, we're going to take a short break and come back and really finish out the show. Stick with us. You don't have any short breaks? I'm sorry. Then you should. We are not taking a short break. That was the short break. All right, I want to go over some of the things that we're talking about this week because tomorrow Dr. Doreen Grampiche will be with us for Ask Dr. Doreen. I have a bunch of questions that you guys wrote in during the break, but we could certainly take some more. So feel free to write in more questions starting now. I'll be putting the questions together tonight and in the morning to Ask Dr. Doreen. You'll want to participate in that. Now, tomorrow during Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy Allspaw Jackson will be here. We'll give you the update on the amazing Denim and Diamonds event. I got to meet Tom Bergeron, and I can't wait to tell you about some amazing things that Tom Bergeron did for autism and is going to do for autism. Stand-up guy. We love Tom Bergeron. But we'll wait and have Nancy fill you in on how much money they were able to make. It was really, really a lovely event. And then we have the 2 interns that are going to be with us tomorrow. They're from USC, and they've got an amazing program that they are starting here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, a parent support group, and some individualized counseling. For those of you who got those teenagers and you're always wanting to know what can I do with the teenagers, they're going to have something to share with you, and I think that's going to be exciting. So that will be tomorrow. Then on Thursday, Julie Kornack, as I mentioned earlier in the show, will be with us. She's a policy analyst and an expert. She's going to be talking with us about Affordable Health Care Act, how we get on the exchanges, what it means for ABA, getting those all-important ABA services for a member of our family or for ourselves, and which plan we might choose and what to look for language-wise to know that you're getting the right plan. Really important, because now is the enrollment time and you want to be looking at those exchanges. So if you have questions for Julie, you can be writing those in as well. Then a little bit later on Thursday, Angela Persicki is going to be back with us. She's a board certified behavior analyst, and she's going to be talking about bully proofing our kids on the autism spectrum. I know I want a front seat for that. I can't wait to hear what she's going to say about that. Then on Friday morning, we've got some really exciting things going on. Dr. Adele Nadowski is going to be here with us. And she is going to be addressing the question about what does an aide, a classroom aide, a one-on-one aide need to do and need to know to be able to prevent elopement, so that we can educate ourselves and know what we need to teach these people, because if the schools aren't going to do it, we're going to have to do it. So she'll be here. And then Dr. Jonathan Tarbox will be here giving us the latest on research and answering your questions. That's on Friday. So that's how the week is shaping up. We're hoping that if Matt Asner feels better, that he'll be able to join us later on in the week. Matt Asner is from Autism Speaks and a dad, so we always love to hear from him. So as we love to hear from you, we hope that you will participate with us. We have a couple of things that are going to be changing in the next couple of weeks that I'll fill you more in about tomorrow. But we're going to be back tomorrow. Don't forget, Ask Dr. Doreen. So you want to be sending in those questions throughout the night for Dr. Doreen Granpeche. It's a rare opportunity to be able to pick her brain. So we'll be back tomorrow. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.